Meta Karajani.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here, to be part of such a great community of like-minded people. My name is Meta Karajani. I'm a service director with Sirius Decisions. I lead in EMEA and Asia Pacific, one of the 14 services that we have, specifically the Marketing Executive Service. So what that means is that in my day-to-day work, I work with chief marketing officers, with VPs of marketing. And today we heard Nick talking about how customer success is not just a role, it's not just a function. And he spoke about the changes that he sees. Indeed, when we work with revenue leaders, with sales, customer success, marketing, product leaders, change is what we always see in those discussions. And with that change comes a tremendous opportunity to raise the bar and drive some very impactful results for our organizations. So today I want to do a couple of things. I want to share with you what we are seeing in terms of the change of the business expectations on those revenue leaders. But I also want to introduce that notion of alignment. Because I talked about change, and each of the functions can execute some of those changes on their own. But working together, what we call alignment, is the secret sauce that separates the good from the great. So I want to introduce that notion of alignment, show you the potential business impact. And the good news is that as we have been working with thousands of B2B organizations, we have seen you making great progress driving that alignment predominantly around the buyer. And continue to do so is important, but no longer sufficient. Think about it. Changes in business models, changes in B2B buying behaviors, technology, innovations, changes in the workplace create new dynamics that B2B organizations can no longer ignore. So today I will introduce you to the new frontiers of B2B alignment and talk about the impact that we can all get from aligning and going forward. And of course, I'm going to bring some of that to life by sharing a case study from one of our clients, Ariba, which is part of SAP. Now, before we dive in, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about Sirius Decisions. It's important that you understand who we are and what we do, because it will bring context to the rest of the presentation. So Sirius Decisions, we are the leading research and advisory organization exclusively focusing on B2B and the revenue engine. So we work with sales, customer success, marketing, and product leaders. We support you to align one with another, to drive and shape your strategies, but also we provide operational guidance so you and your teams can execute with precision and accelerate their growth and the results that you can deliver for your businesses. And on the right-hand side of this page, you can see some of the clients that we are working with. We have the privilege in total to work with clients that represent 3.5 trillion in B2B worldwide. Now, how do we help you? We go to market through three key capabilities. The majority of our business is the research and advisory capability. This is a renewal-based, if you want, engagement. We work with you through the course of our membership, of your membership with us. But as leaders and their teams drive change, we need to bring the organization along with us. We need to create the common vocabulary. We need to make sure that our teams are upskilled. So this is where our learning capabilities come to place. And finally, oftentimes, clients come to us and rely on us to go in and work with them on a project-based capacity, leveraging the insights, the frameworks that our advisor is producing. Now, if I go a little bit deeper into the advisory and how we engage with our clients, on the right-hand side of the page, you see some of the ways that we are delivering. But if you look on the left, at the core of what we do, we bring to our clients a deep benchmark capability, functional performance benchmarks, and in fact, we are tracking 550 metrics across the revenue engine. And today, you will see in my presentation some of those. We also bring best practices and operational frameworks in order to support you, not only to craft your strategy, but as I mentioned before, to execute and move forward. But we know and we understand that different organizations are in different levels of maturity. So our philosophy is that we are helping you throughout the life cycle, adopting, operationalizing, and then optimizing. And you will see again some of that notion of progression in my discussion today. All right, so to get things started, I'm going to borrow the quote from Heraclitus. Change is the only constant. I see that every day in my conversations with revenue leaders. We need to become adept with change. We need to be able to navigate through this change. But in order to do that successfully, we need to understand the context of that change. In other words, we need to understand what our business is expecting us to deliver. So let me show you one slide that captures some of the changes that we are seeing across the revenue engine. If you cast your mind back 10, maybe 15 years, our work was very much focused on growing with a clear focus on net new buyers. But today, if you move on the right-hand side of the page, we talked about not only giving those inquiries, giving those hand raisers at the top of that journey, the funnel, but it's about how we work together to carry that journey more effectively, more efficiently. In the past, there was a lot of attention on just the buyer journey. Today is a balancing act across the buyer and the customer. In the past, we have seen many organizations delivering disconnected interactions, kind of spray and pray approach. We do things and we hope something is going to get the attention of our target audience. Today is about delivering synchronized, very targeted experiences to the audience we have selected to go after. In the past, it was about outputs, how busy we are. Today, it's about the impact we are creating. It's about the outcomes that we are enabling for our customers, but also for us as an organization. In the past, we were static, right? We were reactive. We were planning ahead for 9, 12 months, and we were kind of sitting backwards. Today, we have data in our hands that show us where the buyer or the customer is in their journey. And we have the opportunity to be far more agile, far more real-time and proactive in how we are engaging our target audience. This one is a big one. I'm sure you all recognize it. From content that is all about me, my products, my offerings, the functionality, to content that is customer-centric, that it drives the conversation with the buyer. From measuring the impact of our organization through only a lens of the demand to understanding and measuring the impact of the revenue engine across a number of areas. And finally, and I already alluded to that, from working in isolation within our own teams, within our own functions, to moving and working cohesively across the revenue engine. And let me go deeper into that, how we work together. So these are the 3 parts of the revenue engine, right? Sales and customer success, marketing, and product. Sirius Decisions in 2015, we did an initial research. We wanted to understand how can we quantify the impact of those 3 functions coming, aligning, and working together. So we went out and we compared publicly traded organizations, their financial performance, with the performance of our clients who demonstrated strong alignment. And what we found was amazing. So back then, we were able to do a couple of things. We were able to correlate and identify 4 stages of alignment from early days, what we call foundation, all the way to being efficient and driving that alignment consistently within the organization. And we were able to correlate that progression in those stages also correlates with higher revenue growth and higher profitability. But the real bombshell of what we've done back then, it was that we were able to isolate and calculate that impact. So what we found is that organizations that demonstrate that strong alignment across the revenue engine are able to deliver 19% faster revenue growth and 15% higher profitability. But that work was predominantly focused through the lens of that journey from cold to close, right? And as I showed you a minute ago, there are so many changes that require the revenue leaders to think beyond just the buyer. So this year, we challenged ourselves. We posed the fundamental question, is alignment predominantly around the buyer enough? And what we concluded is that it isn't. And let me show you how we got to that conclusion. If we need to move beyond just aligning around the buyer, what are the extended areas of alignment? We identified 6 distinct areas where B2B revenue leaders need to come together and align. And as you can see, we used the analogy of the water ski slalom course. It's a perfect analogy because if you think about water ski, I water ski, every time you pass a buoy, you set up yourself for the next one. And water ski is a wonderful sport. Your physical strength will get you up to a point. It is the alignment of your body with the ski and the boat that makes the difference. Similarly, what we are arguing here is the alignment of the revenue engine throughout all these areas that separates the good from the great that makes the difference. Now, if we need to go beyond just the buyer alignment, what are we going to get? So what is the impact back to the business? And that is a tough question. Now, here we were fortunate to lean on our own benchmark data, what we call our command center capability. So we went back into our command center, and for each of these 6 areas, we identified what I'm going to call today alignment indicators. Think of those as factors that enable us to understand the presence and the strength of alignment in each of these areas. And by turning those factors on and off, we were able to do a couple of things. First, calculate the improvement that we saw on key performance indicators related with each of these areas, but we didn't stop here. We went 1 level up, and we calculated the revenue growth and the profitability impact that we saw in those cases. Now, if we are to drive alignment, not only once, but 6 times, that led us to the third question, which is how can I become better and sustain alignment in each of these areas? And this is where we brought back that table of the 4 phases that I showed you before, and we created what we call alignment playbooks for each of those 6 areas. So join me. Let's run the extended course of alignment together. Now, the first 2 buoys, buoy 1 and buoy 2, go back to that notion of the revenue engine alignment around the buyer, but we went much, much deeper. Buoy number 1 is how do we align to drive a direct revenue impact? And also here, we looked into account-based marketing efforts. But this is very different from working and driving that revenue through indirect channels. So buoy 1 and buoy number 2 is about direct and indirect revenue alignment. And in fact, as I mentioned before, in many of our conversations, B2B organizations do a pretty good job here. But for many organizations, this is where the course finishes. However, others go beyond this point. Look at other areas where alignment is critical. So buoy number 3 is about driving that alignment not only for the buyer, but also for the customer, what we call customer engagement. Buoy number 4 is about how do we align around innovation. It is not enough to service and respond to the needs of our clients today. It's about understanding the needs of our clients tomorrow, anticipate those needs, and be able to execute and drive strong innovation. Now, we talk about B2B alignment and B2B performance. We sell to B2B organizations. We market to that. But ultimately, we deal with people, right? So we need to align in the way we grasp the hearts and the minds of the people we go after. So buoy number 5 is about brand experience. Now, water skiers, oftentimes when they get into buoy number 5, we are excited. We almost made the course, one more buoy, and we've made it. And sometimes we become a little bit relaxed. But B2B organizations cannot stop here. Think about the skills that you need in order to be successful. We see a lot of change there. I'll give you an example. 5 years ago, marketing organizations didn't have data analysts. Today, that is the #1 role that CMOs are seeking and recruiting over the next couple of years. So the point I'm making is that the war for talent in B2B is on. And B2B organizations need to do a much better job at attracting and maintaining the right talent in order to grow. So buoy number 6 is employee engagement. Now today, we are going to focus on buoy number 3, customer engagement. So let me show you how we at Sirius Decisions define customer engagement. As you see here, it's about how organizations fulfill the brand promise through the design and the execution of customer-centric programs that deliver value in each stage of the customer lifecycle. So let me show you what we found in terms of the impact. In this category, when we went back into our command center data, we used the effectiveness of customer culture initiative changes as the alignment indicator in this category. Organizations that showed strong alignment in customer engagement were able to successfully upsell and cross-sell by up to 22% and 20% respectively. And also they saw an increase in customer lifetime value by up to 23%. Now these numbers make a lot of sense because when we go out and we speak to buyers in our ongoing buyer behavior research, customer experience, customer engagement is the #1 driver that shapes B2B buying decisions. So customers who are happy stay with you longer, buy with you more, and advocate on your behalf internally to other buying centers, but also externally. But as I said before, we didn't stop here. We went one level up and calculated the business impact that we can deliver. And we saw organizations with strong customer engagement alignment achieving revenue growth up to 30% more and profitability up to 26%. Now, as we all know, gaining a net new buyer is much more expensive than maintaining the customers we have and grow our existing customer base. But many organizations today are moving to those recurring revenue models. So these numbers here are very powerful. But the question, of course, becomes, how do we get to those numbers? How do we drive this back to the business? So let me bring that alignment playbook and walk you through a couple of examples. So you see again the 4 phases on alignment, and now on the left-hand side of this page, you see some of the critical factors that drive that alignment, aligning around the strategy, aligning in the audiences that we are going to go after, how we mobilize our organizational resources, the processes that we deploy, the technology that we have, the measurement and the metrics that we track. Now, in order to drive that strong alignment around customer engagement, having a clear customer engagement strategy, outlining shared objectives that mobilize the resources accordingly is critical. And in the early stages of that maturity, typical organizations focus on providing the support they need to their existing customers in order to make sure that customers are happy with what they have already bought, right? So our focus is predominantly on customer support. And this is where we see sales and customer success teams working very closely together to make sure that the transition from buyer to customer is as smooth as possible. Now, as our maturity and our alignment progresses in phase 2, we move on beyond just offering the initial support at the early stages of the customer relationship, but we are moving to have specific efforts in place to drive the ongoing utilization of our offerings across a number of stakeholders within the organization. And typically here, customer success teams look at utilization metrics in order to identify any potential issues and proactively go out and address them. In phase number 3, we build upon the good work that we have done. We need to continue reinforce the utilization of our services and our products, but at the same time, we need to make sure that we communicate the value that the customer has extracted from working with us. So this is where a programmatic effort, making sure that we go out and we communicate to the right people at the right time, is absolutely critical. So here we see customer marketing, customer success, sales teams working together to achieve that. At the same time, in phase 3, it is also critical to have a systematic approach to cultivate, identify and cultivate our customer advocates within the organization and enable them to say a story within their own teams. In phase number 4, right, with a strong customer relationship being established, with value being actualized, this is where we see expansion opportunities opening up. So a couple of things have happened in this phase. We need to continue to cultivate that strong relationship, identifying advocates within the organization. We need to continue to understand the customer health of our existing customer base. We may be tracking things like NPS scores, engagement scores, but at the same time, we want to maximize the commercial opportunities. So this is where white space analysis come in, propensity to buy come in. In addition to that, we want to make sure that every touch point is aligned. Every touch point within the organization delivers a consistent experience back to our customers. So customer experience teams work together with customer success, with customer marketing to achieve some of those objectives. Now, when we work with our clients to help them in this space, we utilize one of our frameworks, the Sirius Decisions Customer Lifecycle Framework. It breaks down the customer journey in 4 key steps. And it identifies what are the outcomes that we are trying to achieve from our own perspective, this is the blue boxes, but also from the perspective of the customer. This is a very powerful model. It helps to align, and as I mentioned before, design customer-centric programs that drive value in each of the stages of the customer lifecycle. Oftentimes, when I work with organizations, I see a very detailed buyer journey, and then just one box for customer, right? That's not enough. We have to go much, much deeper and understand the customer journey. Now, as I talk about alignment, let me show you what two particular teams, customer success and customer marketing, bring on the table when they work together. And I'll talk about 4 things: targeted execution, richer intelligence, stronger direction, and stronger prioritization. So in terms of execution, customer success teams have a very rich understanding of the specific strategies of the accounts that we are going after. But customer marketing can bring on the table our programmatic capabilities and work together to put in place programs that support that customer engagement. So the result is far more targeted execution. I'll take the next 2 together. To be able to drive the programs, we need to have a good understanding. We need to gather insights about our customers. So yet again here, this is a great area of opportunity for the 2 teams to work together. Customer success brings a rich understanding of the specific insights, of the specific relationships. They may have mapped those relationships, understand the specific opportunities within the account. And customer marketing contributes wallet share, propensity analysis. So together allow us to have a much richer understanding and drive a much, much stronger direction. And finally, as we all know, we don't have infinite resources. We need to target our resources to the best opportunities. So here where customer success brings that insight of the specific objectives within the accounts, and customer marketing can work to prioritize those accounts and go after and target them with the best possible programs. Now, let me bring some of that to life with the case study from Ariba, which is part now of SCP and is one of the customers that we have been working with. So let me take you back. A couple of years ago, Ariba did an analysis looking forward of the revenue projection. And they realized that in year 3, as much as 50% of the revenue growth will come from their existing customers. So what that means is that their existing customers is not only important for future growth, but there is an opportunity risk here. If we don't focus on the customers, we are putting at risk our ability to get to the revenue that we want. So it was a growth, but also, if you want, survival mode here. And that was a kind of wake-up call for Ariba. That set them off to design a whole strategy and approach to drive predominantly customer engagement. So what you see here is a number of things that they put together. They looked into the programs, into their initiatives, and they started to understand which of those contribute more to customer engagement. But they didn't stop here. They went one step further, because remember, it is about focusing on the customers, but it's not about spraying and praying when we go out and execute. So Ariba wanted to be very prescriptive in which of these things should be deployed when. So they took a customer life cycle approach. They looked throughout the different stages of the customer journey, the critical milestones that they want to achieve, and they started packaging those efforts together. They started bringing together things like a customer care package, an account-based campaign, a drip campaign. And if you look at what is in that box, they became very prescriptive about what each of these packages contain and how we work together, who does what, bringing that alignment with clear expectations, roles, and responsibilities. So this is what they've done. But how do they know when to apply those packages to which customers? This is what they've done next. They build an engagement score, and this is a fascinating area. Let me tell you a story. About 2.5 years ago, I was with a number of CMOs. We hosted Sirius Decisions quarterly CMO sessions, and we were talking about measurement. And I asked them back then, what is a metric that you currently don't track and you would like to track? Customer engagement, back 2.5 years ago, was at the top of that wish list. Today, we are seeing many organizations putting that capability in place. And you see that through the example of Ariba. So in other words, they looked backwards in order to go forward. They went into their own data and they correlated which of those things drive significant customer engagement. And of course, not every activity is equal the same. So for example, what you see here, if they have a customer coming and speaking to one of their own events, well, that will be a high score versus someone who just comes and attends the event. So it's important that you go back to your own data and start to understand those correlations. So with the engagement score, they were able to go out and execute in a very targeted fashion. The results were amazing. They drove a 142 increase in their community participation. They drove some amazing efficiency results. You saw the response time went down from 12 days to less than 1 day. And ultimately, that customer engagement, which was the primary objective of this effort, went up. So if I start kind of summing up and wrapping up the session today, I shared with you some of the changes that we see in the revenue engine. It is a great opportunity to go beyond just the buyer, to have sales, customer success, marketing, and product leaders to all work together to drive that customer engagement and the other areas that are important to B2B. The time is right. The time is now to really align and drive that impact across the 6 areas that I shared with you today. And of course, in order to maintain, to put in place and maintain that alignment, I shared with you some of the playbooks that we are using with our clients to help them achieve that. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next session will continue in 10 minutes.